Hello and welcome to week 29's Dinosaur. So this is second week of July. So 7 more curious, interesting and innovative things. Let's crack on. Sorry about the light, it's a bit harsh in here today. First of all, it's a little bit tricky to explain, but this is non-Euclidean worlds. So this is actually, I think, from a couple of years ago, but actually my son showed me this and it was just mind-blowing. So this is a developer who has developed his own sort of rendering engine to show you a non-Euclidean worlds. Now Euclidean geometry, I guess, is, for 3 dimensions plus time, the normal stuff basically. If you go along a corridor, then you will end up at the end of the corridor. In a non-Euclidean world, which is almost the opposite, where the rules don't apply, you can go down a short corridor and end up taking a long walk, and vice versa. Likewise, you can see 3 rooms in front of you, and as you walk around the 3 rooms, it turns out there are 4. So there's some quite interesting things going on here. Really interesting for something like VR, so that if you have a space that has a seemingly limited world and you can walk around it and discover almost infinite spaces within it, that's quite an interesting place to go. So have a look at the video. It's quite mind-boggling. For instance, you can get smaller but actually become bigger, and you can go up some stairs and actually go down, all those sorts of things. Second one is just a sort of interesting update from, this is MIT, I think. So this is, it's tattooing evidence of vaccines using quantum dots. So a little bit hard to explain, but essentially if you have a little patch, you can see in the bottom corner here, there's some little spikes. And those spikes can actually inject you with quantum dot technology. And what that will do is it will allow somebody to point potentially a mobile phone at your skin and then decode the information within this dot pattern. So the way they imagine these working is, imagine a small patch that you put onto the skin. The little spikes that you can see puncture the skin and not only deliver the marker material, the quantum dots essentially, but they can also deliver the vaccine as well. So say for instance, if there is a codeine vaccine and you had one of the patches, then up to sort of 3 or 4 years later, somebody can actually point a phone at you, and then they can actually read an invisible matrix on your skin and know whether you've been vaccinated or not. So going into shops or going into businesses to know whether you've had the vaccine to a certain virus might be as simple as pointing a camera at you. So interesting technology that also delivers the vaccine as well. TikTok for business, so quite an interesting couple of weeks for TikTok. I think there's another slide coming up where they're implicated in that one as well. So not only are certain countries, India for instance, and America are considering banning TikTok, certain companies as well are. So for instance, if you work for several blue chip companies, they are sending memos around saying you must uninstall TikTok on your work machines. Now, one of the reasons, which we'll come up to, is because they've been doing some quite naughty things with clipboards. However, they're also completely going on the advertising model as well, so they're really going for it. They've launched TikTok for Business, very much like Snapchat have as well. You can go to this place and you can get all of the formats, and you can basically get help with partnerships and those sorts of things. So they have their top view format, which is essentially the first takeover when you go into the app. They also have hashtag challenges and in-feed videos, that sort of thing. So if you're curious about how to get into TikTok as an advertiser, then that's the link for you basically. Apple Pay, so this is not new to Android, it's not new to Google either, but the iOS 14 update, which came out a few weeks ago, had a second update, and developers have noticed this screen that you can see in front of you, which suggests that QR code payments are coming to native Apple Pay. So before this, you would have needed an app, for instance, that had some sort of QR code system on it, or had some sort of devoted wallet, for instance. Whereas this might be integrated directly into Apple Pay. So for instance, you could go into a shop, or you could look at a poster, for instance, scan the QR code directly with your phone and need no other apps, and it could actually connect you with the payment. So all you'd have to do is touch your thumb to then take the payment. So if it's, for instance, a digital good, then you can actually just take the payment there and then. If you walk into a shop and there's a cake and it has a QR code on it, you basically scan the QR code with your camera, put your thumb on the sensor and pay for it. Again, this has been out for 2 years on Google Wallet, for instance. However, it also works the other way around, as shown by Google, which is you can then also have a payment. So you can, for instance, type in, you owe me €50, £50, whatever, and it'll create a QR code that somebody else can actually scan as well. So this is not new, but because it's come to Apple and it's integrated natively into the phone, it probably means that more people will start using it, and therefore it'll become more of a thing. So again, probably if you work in print or if you work in retail, this is a thing. Slightly disruptive, this one. So movie night in Fortnite. So on July the 26th, they'll be testing a live viewing experience within Fortnite called Movie Night. So they are choosing one of 3 Christopher Nolan films, and it depends on what territory you're in. So you go to the website, you type in where you're from, and this is all to do with rights as well. So they couldn't get the film rights in all territories. So if you're in the UK, you're going to get The Prestige, other people are going to get Batman Begins, and some are going to get Inception. So why this is interesting is that there is this sort of creative zone within Fortnite that they're doing these events in, and you might have seen the Travis Scott event a couple of months ago now, or the Marshmallow event last year. So Marshmallow got about 10 million people live, and Travis Scott got to about 12.5 million. So even if you say, well, how many people could this reach? You go, well, broadly speaking, 12 million people could be watching a movie live. Now, it's interesting with COVID, the amount of sort of co-watching experiments that are going on. So this allows you essentially with your friends to go into Fortnite and watch a film. We don't know quite how this is going to work because nobody's released any details, but you will probably be watching a screen, probably like a sort of an outdoor drive-in movie in America, that sort of thing. Who knows? But it's interesting how they're going to sort of start off with 3 movies that they've managed to get the rights for. So clearly somebody behind the scenes over at Epic is working on the rights to movies. And if you work in the movie world, distribution world, if you're on Netflix, Sky, for instance, then another audience watching live films within a game environment is quite an interesting competitor or something to watch for. So watch out when that comes on. So 26th of July. As I mentioned earlier, TikTok are going to appear twice in this. So a bunch of apps have been caught essentially listening to your clipboard in your mobile phone. And there are lots of them as well. I don't think this is the exhaustive list, but there are several: news, games, social, and the sort of other. And you will recognise some of these. So Fox News, CBS, Russia Today. Who hasn't played Fruit Ninja, Bejeweled, Plants vs Zombies, super popular games. TikTok is up there. Weibo as well, so another big Chinese giant. AliExpress and DAZN as well. So what it really means is these apps, when you load up the app, they have access to your clipboard. So whatever you had in your clipboard when you came to the app, they can read and they can do whatever they want with. They've been doing this for a long time, and they've only just really been caught. I think some researchers found out in April, and with Apple's new iOS update, which has sort of outlawed this, a little alert comes up. So all of a sudden people have been noticing these alerts and going, hang on a minute, which is why TikTok has got sort of caught recently doing it. So this has a sort of a double sort of slightly creepy thing. So the sorts of things they could have been looking at are your passwords, if you'd have copy and pasted a password out of a wallet or something like that. If you've got, for instance, I don't know, your Bitcoin or a photo, they can actually take the photo. So maybe you've got your saucy photos that you were pasting to a friend in WhatsApp, that would have gone there as well. So if you think backwards how many things you might have had in your clipboard that you don't want anybody to know about, that's what we're talking about here. And there's another level on as well. So if you have an iOS device or an Apple device, a couple of years ago they invented or introduced Apple's sort of universal clipboard, as it was called. So multiple devices logged onto the same Apple ID account can share the same clipboard. So if you copy something on your iOS device, or your iPad, for instance, it's then available on your Mac. So, and it also, this feature works like that as well. So it might not be the app or the phone that actually is getting you into trouble. It's what you've got on your clipboard on your Mac has shared it with your phone, and that's what they've got access to. So it's a whole world of hurt. So you might want to have a look at this list. If you've got any of those, you might want to uninstall them If you haven't updated to iOS 14 yet, you might want to do that as well, because that will start blocking it as well. But it's like, how many more of these are out there waiting for us to find out about? So really, really bad form on all of these apps, and you might want to uninstall some of them. And finally, we have we've seen this at Christmas, or actually at New Year, for some of the sort of fire-free New Year's parties instead of fireworks. So this is in Seoul, obviously in South Korea, and this is 300 drones, and there was a whole 10-minute display essentially over the entire of Seoul, telling people about the new sort of the COVID distancing restrictions and those sorts of things. So here, as you can see, it's actually doing the face masks and showing you the couple moving apart. They sort of, essentially they were saying thank you, but also please keep vigilant. So it was really neat. Only 300 drones, so they weren't using a big sort of pixel matrix. So so this can be seen all around Seoul. Really, really good example. So yeah, pretty nice. So thank you. I think we've done that in record time today. So I will see you next week.